Hi, this is Kevin Trainer, and welcome to my tutorial on installing PyCharm on Windows 10. And a couple of caveats at this point. First of all, I'm recording this primarily for the use of the students in my university classes at the University of Illinois and UWM. And so you may be a person who's not part of that, who found this tutorial on YouTube, and that's great. You're certainly welcome to join us. Just know that this is really tailored to the needs of our class. And for instance, I show my students how to download, how to apply for a free license because they're a university student, and how to download that and how to install it. And that's not available to everyone. But I can't change that. Another thing is this. I'm recording this in January 2018. For the spring 2018 semester. And I'm hoping that this is going to have a life of at least a year. So if you're in my spring 2018 class and you play the tutorial, you're probably going to be installing the same version of everything that I am. Okay, but if this is the summer or next fall, well, you probably won't be. There'll probably be new versions of everything. And I just want to say this, generally speaking, I'm going to recommend that you use the newest version of everything. The newest update of the operating system, the newest update of PyCharm. You should have already installed Anaconda, the newest update of Anaconda. In my classes, if there's a new combination of things that we detect to be broken, we'll pass the word around. Okay, so we'll warn people apart from this. Beware of version whatever in whatever because it's incompatible with such and such. That does happen, but less frequently than you would think. Generally, the new versions of things work just fine. So what versions of things do I have here? Well, this is January 20-something or other, January 24th, and I've got the latest version of Windows 10 as of this date. And what else do I have here? Well, of course, in a previous tutorial, we installed Anaconda. So if we go and look at Anaconda, okay, we'll see we have the latest version of Anaconda 3 and Anaconda Navigator. Now, I had created taskbar icons for Anaconda Navigator and the Anaconda prompt before, and since then I've reset the software, so let me create those two. Okay. So let's take a look at what we should already have with Anaconda before we start this PyCharm install. Okay. Anaconda Navigator is a little clunky, firing up. Here it comes. It's never fast. It's still coming. Don't despair. Still coming. Well, I clicked on it again. Let's see if we can make that work. pretty pokey. My. Well, there'll be a slight pause while I get up Anaconda Navigator. I shall return. Okay, we're back. It's just a matter of patience. So I got it up. I shouldn't have continued to click. I found that out. And let's just look. So again, there's a tutorial where we install Anaconda and we set up environments that are appropriate for Python programming. And if you haven't done that tutorial, then take a break here, go do that, and then come back. And under environments, let's see what we have. We have the base or root environment. We created an environment for plain old Python development, which has got the Python 3 interpreter in it. In my classes, we don't fool with Python 2. It's too yesterday for us. Okay? Plenty of respectable people still using Python 2, just not us. And then in my Django classes, we typically use one of these two Django environments that we built. One we built with the navigator and another one we built at the command line. And they, of course, each have their own name. So we're going to do some exploring of that. So that's what should already be done. Okay. And let's just quit that before it drives me completely crazy. All right, so let's bring up the Edge browser and let's do a little searching. So if you're in one of my classes, I'm recommending that we use PyCharm Professional, which you need a license for. Okay. The community version, also called PyCharm EDU or PyCharm Edu, that will work for most of the things we do in my Introduction to Python classes. But as of right now, the features that we use for Django programming, for my Django-related courses, are not available in the PyCharm Edu version. So I'm saying to everybody, if you're a university person, you're entitled to a free JetBrains license that will allow you to install a licensed version of PyCharm and a lot of their other products. And as long as we're entitled to a free version, let's go do it. And so I'm recommending that whether you're doing just a Python programming course or something with Django. Okay? All right, so how do we find the link to get that free license? Well, I know it's on the weekly schedule of one of my courses for the current semester up here at UWM. So we're just going to peek at that because I know you can go to the JetBrains website and do a search, or I already have this. I already have a link here, and I typically do put a link in the schedule of my courses. So here's my link. JetBrains free individual licenses for students and faculty members. So let's click through on that. Okay. And so what's really cool is that all these tools are installable under the license. You get a 1-year academic license. They're all installable. How do you get the license? Well, you use your university email address you click on Apply Now and go fill out the form. And I forget whether you get it instantaneously or you get it by email, but it doesn't take long either way. And once you have that, you have an account. Okay, and we're going to use that account in order to download the software. Okay, so let's do that. Okay. How are we going to do that? Well, to download the software, we just go to the normal JetBrains website. So I'm just going to go to jetbrains.com. Okay. And by this point, we should have an account, and that means that we can go over here to the upper right side where there's a little person icon that has the help text account, and click on that. Okay, let's give that a click again. Didn't seem to hear me. Okay, and here we are. Welcome to your JetBrains account, and your account at this point should begin with your university email address. Mine, I'm using my UWM one right now. And you put in your password. And you sign in. Okay, and it shows that I have the license at JetBrains product pack for students. Now, well, I'd like to save the password. I don't want to do that right yet. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're just going to install PyCharm. Okay, just that. All right. Now, can you install more? Yeah, there's actually a product called JetBrains Toolbox, and that will allow you to install all the products that you see here on the list. I'm not going to show you how to do that for two reasons. One is that we don't need to spend the time to do it. And the other is that the virtual machines that I'm using for these tutorials, they don't seem to display the install for that product all that well. You get to a screen and you can't see the whole thing, and it's kind of a mess. Probably that's just my virtual machine and not the software per se, and probably if you run it on your native host operating system, it will run just fine. So I'll leave that to you, and I'll show you how to install PyCharm all by itself. So from here, we click on PyCharm, and we go to the product page, and there's a download now button, so we click on that. And here's where we get to choose, do we want the community version, that's that PyCharm EDU, or do we want the professional one? And we want the professional one, one, because we have a license for it, why not use it? And two, for people in my Django courses, at least right now, the Django features have not shown up in the community edition yet, okay? So we're going to click on the download under a professional, and notice it says free trial, but it's only a free trial until you activate the licensing. So everybody downloads the free trial, and those with licenses get to register them, and then they've got a proper version. Here's a link to that Toolbox app if you feel adventurous, okay? We're not. We're going to click on download for professional. Okay. And there's some stuff here to allow you to sign up for their mailing list and all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to do it because I'm already on their mailing list about 50 times. But I like the stuff that they send me. In fact, I even follow their products on Twitter. There's a Twitter account for JetBrains. There's one for PyCharm. And there's all kinds of cool announcements on those, so you might want to do those. But I'm just going to click on Save. And it's going to save pretty fast here because I'm at the university and we've got at least a T1 line going. It finished already. That's great. Open folder. And here it is, PyCharm Professional 2017.3.3, and that's the newest one. And so let's first of all let's close the browser because we're not going to need that right now, and close all those. And let's go back to the downloads folder. And double click on the install for PyCharm Professional. Let that heat up a bit. Yes, we do want to allow it to run on this device. Okay. Click on Next. It's going to put it under Program Files at JetBrains. That seems like a great place for it. Next. Create a desktop shortcut. We're going to do the 64-bit version, so we want the 64-bit launcher. I'll take that. Next. I'll just take all that stuff, so I'll say next. I'm sorry, I'll say install. And now we're going to wait for this to install. Installs pretty fast, but I'm going to pause it until it gets to the end so you're not just watching a paint dry. So I'll be back in a little bit. Okay, we're back. So let's see. We're on the panel where we can say finish. There's a checkbox for on PyCharm, but I want to do that a little bit more manually, so I'm not going to check that box. I am going to click on Finish, and I'm done. And I'm going to close the File Explorer. And you remember I asked for a desktop icon, and I got one. And I know I can just pull that down to the taskbar, and that'll give me a taskbar icon. So that's just the way I like to do that. So when I want to fire up PyCharm, I'll give it a double click. I'm sorry, it's probably a single click is all I need down on the taskbar. Do I want to import any PyCharm settings? No, I don't. So that's the default. Okay. Privacy policy, I don't have any real choice. I'll accept it. I want to do license activation. Sure. So the JetBrains account is the account that we set up for our student account. So let's just put in our email. I'm going to use my university email. And I'm going to put in my password that I set up for that account. And I'm going to say activate it. And there we go. So the first time it comes up, it gives you a couple of configuration options. The UI theme, the default one is called IntelliJ. IntelliJ is the name of their Java IDE. So that's their default theme. Then they've got Darkula. I'm not a Dark fan, so I'd leave the IntelliJ default. You're going to decide what you want. Then we're going to click on Next. And there are a bunch of featured plugins. As of right now, I'm not recommending any of these. As I get when I get to using this for a data science course, I could see maybe wanting to install the R language support. But right now, I'm not doing that. You could certainly do it. Okay, and now I'm going to click on the bottom right, start using PyCharm. And we see the splash screen for PyCharm. And you might also see on the splash screen the date that your license goes through. Now, mine only goes to the end of March because I first registered at the end of March last year. Or maybe, maybe 2 years ago. So what I'll do is I'll get an option to re-up, but it won't be until at least the beginning of March. If you're new to this and you just got your academic license, then you're good for a year. Okay, so we want to create a new project. Okay, so this is a typical thing. You get the splash screen, and now you come to this, and your use cases are create a new project, open an existing project, check one out from version control. We want to create a new one. Okay. And right now we're looking at, let's say we're taking a Python course with me. Over here on the left-hand side, navigation panel or choice panel, pure Python, that's the one we want. That's the default. Location. Okay, so where's it putting these things? Well, it's created under my user account. It's created a directory called PyCharm projects. And right now it wants to put the first project under the name untitled. That's not what I want. But as for the place to put them, this PyCharm projects directory, that's completely fine with me. Might you want to change this to put it under your documents folder? Well, some people do, but this is certainly works fine for me. And I'm going to backspace over untitled, and I'm going to call it first Python project, and I'm going to name it in a Pythonic way. You know, things that you do that are very Python-like are called Pythonic. And names of things are typically done in lowercase letters, the words separated by underscores. So I'm just going to say my underscore first underscore Python underscore project. Okay, that's a very Pythonic name for a project. And down here, immediately underneath, there's a little triangle, and there's something having to do with the Python interpreter. You'll remember that when we installed Anaconda, we set up these environments, these virtual environments for use with our Python projects. And here we're going to point at the right one. So click on that line, and you can see there are two radio buttons. Either you want to create a new environment, which is what's already pushed, and you can see if you go over, there's a drop down. You can, for people who are using virtual env, you can use that. And for us, if we wanted a new one for Anaconda, we could pick Conda. But we've already created our environments with Anaconda. So what we want to do is go find them. So we want to click this lower button, existing interpreter. Okay. And if we come down to the interpreter drop down, if we look at that, there's nothing there yet. Okay. So later on, we'll see that there are things that are there. Okay. So now we have to go to the right of this drop down box where we have the gear button. Click on the gear button. And what we want to do is we want to add an interpreter and an environment. These are local, they're on our machine, so add local. Okay. And then let's go up, we go to interpreter. Is there anything to pick with the drop down? No. So let's go to the button to the right with the 3 dots. And we're going to see our file system. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to find Anaconda in our file system because we want to find our environments. So let's, I'm going to say it's on the C drive, so I'm going to double click on that. Okay. And I'm going to think maybe it's under program files. And nope, let's look under users. Okay, and let's look under me. And let's see, we have a hidden file, Anaconda, hidden directory, but here it is, Anaconda 3. That's what we want. So let's open this up, Anaconda 3. All right, and then we have the directory with envs in it, the environments. Okay, we've got that. So what do we want? Well, remember we set up an environment for plain old Python development. That's what we want there. Now we not only want to identify the environment, we are trying to identify the Python interpreter within that. So let's open up that folder. And it turns out that under Windows, if we go down the bottom, we can see python.exe. That's really a shortcut that points to the Python interpreter that we want. So let's just highlight that, python.exe, click on OK. Okay, so if you look up here, it kind of has a Python icon on the left. It looks like it found what it wanted. And now here's the question, make available to all projects, all right? Well, we're going to have a lot of projects that are just plain old Python, nothing too fancy. And we're probably going to want to share this environment among them. So if we click this box, it'll be easier to find the next time. So I'm going to click it and click on OK. And as I come back up a level, I can see the interpreter is Python 3.6 within the environment, within the project, my first Python project. That looks okay. And you can see as I hover over it, it's pointing at envs, plain old Python development. That's the environment that we want. So that looks like it's configured the right way. So let's go down and click on Create. And Windows Defender is saying, do I really want to do it? Yes, allow access. Okay, and now it wants to give us a tip. I'm just going to close that. And it looks like it's installing the software for my project. Okay, so my project is still being configured, and if you look at, I'm making the window a little bigger here. If you look at the bottom of your window for PyCharm, you can see that it's doing some work. Right now it's indexing. You can see that. You can also see a completion bar. And there's a bunch of copying of things that goes on to really configure your project. You can't really accomplish a whole lot until this is done. If you have a fast computer like I do, it's going to go pretty fast. If you have a slow computer, it's going to go slow, so go get a cup of coffee. Here you can also see at the bottom on the left is information about my license. And it says it's licensed to me for educational use only, so yours should say something equivalent. Okay, so how do we create a Python program in this project? Well, the project's up here at the top, my first Python project. Let's right-click on it, and when the drop-down comes, say we want a new, and then we want a Python file. Okay? And what a lot of people do for their first program, they do hello world, which has been around since the days of the C programming language, but that's gotten a little bit old. So I do goodbye cruel world. Okay, so we want to come up with a name for the file that's going to hold that Python program. And again, I want to call it Goodbye the Cruel World. I want to name it kind of Pythonically. So I'm going to use all lowercase words separated by underscore. So goodbye underscore cruel underscore world. Okay, we don't have to add on the .py because this kind Python file will take care of that. So we click on OK, and it generates the file. You look over here in this navigation panel, goodbye cruel world.py. That's what we're on here. Some people, especially in educational materials, will put a comment at the beginning of the file with the file name. So I'm just going to do that for the heck of it. Whether people really do that in the real world is an open question. So I'm going to put a comment that begins with a £, and I'm just going to say goodbye cruel world .py. That's the name of the file. And I'll skip a couple lines, and now what I'm going to show you is how to create a simple Python program that has all the infrastructure that we like programmers to use. And one of the things is that we like to have a procedure that is the main procedure that holds the main line of your code. And what do we do with that? Well, we define a procedure. So we say def space and then the main, because that's what it's called. And then we have empty parentheses because it doesn't take any parameters. Okay. And then we have a colon after the parentheses that says this is the beginning of a code block. So then we're going to have the code that's in our procedure. And right now we just want to have a placeholder for a place to put our code. And is there a way to have some Python code that says, well, just don't do anything now? Yeah, there's the word pass. That says, don't do anything. Okay, so we've got that. Okay, and procedures don't run themselves. Okay, so you can define all the procedures you want, but on their own, they don't get run. We need at least one line of code that calls the procedure, and that's what we put down at the bottom. So we say main, paren, and that's a call to the main procedure, and that's going to run that. Now it's pretty good, except we don't do anything. We don't print goodbye cruel world yet, so let's go back up to where we say pass and delete that. And let's do some printing. So in Python, when you print with a print command. And what you're printing goes into the argument list, which is in parens. And we're going to give it a character string. And character strings are typically put into single quotes or apostrophes. We're going to hit the single quote or apostrophe. You type one and you automatically are giving the closing one. And now we're just going to put in our character string, goodbye, comma, cruel world, period. And that's everything that we want. Okay, so do we have to save this? Well, in this particular PyCharm product, the editor is pretty good at automatically saving files, but I'm a little compulsive. So if you want to force a save, you can use, let's see, we're using Windows, so we want to use Control S, typical Windows application save hotkey. All right. So we have that, and then how do we run it? Well, there are 2 or 3 or 4 ways to get it to run here in PyCharm, but they're all not activated right yet. So let's just somewhere in the editor panel right-click, and then pick Run Goodbye Cruel World. So we're going to do that, and then it's going to open up down in this bottom panel. It's going to open up the Run dialog. And you can see we have our results. Goodbye, cruel world. So we got what we wanted. Okay, now let's look down here at this panel down at the bottom. We not only have this run panel, but we have certain other things that we can do. So how do we see what's possible? Well, down on the very low bar on the left side, there's a little rectangle. If we hover over it, you can see that what we've done now is we've gone to run. So if we want to go back there, just go up and click run. And of course, you go there. Or we could have picked Python console, and that'll give us a brand new Python console. And it's going to give us the one that's in the environment that we chose, 3.6.4. That's what we want. Okay. Or we could go down here to that little rectangle and say that we want a terminal window, which will get us out to the command line. Okay. And you can see that we're in the directory structure for our project, so that's good. Okay. Now, the one thing that we don't have here, and I've got to admit they don't have completely working, is we haven't automatically fired up our Anaconda environment yet. Now, let's see if we can just say conda activate. If we can even do conda list to see a list of the environments. And we can't do that yet. So if I were farther along on this particular operating system, I work on a Mac. Okay, so coming over here, I'm still having problems at this point at getting the Anaconda commands to work. When we installed Anaconda, it specifically told us to not pick the option where it added Anaconda to our Windows path. It warned us against that, so we didn't do it, and now we've got some trouble. So in my classes, I'll be working with you to figure out how to solve that. It works fine in the run window. It works fine in the interpreter window. It doesn't seem to work as well in the terminal window yet, and I apologize for that. But, it takes a village, and I know I'm going to find out from a student exactly how we're going to fix this. And in which case, I'll re-record the video. Okay, so that's that. So let's go. Let's close the editor panel for this. The editor panels, at least in the Mac version, are kind of sticky. So if you close a project with a bunch of editor panels open, when you open it again, they're open. Okay, which is kind of nice. Of course, if you've got a bunch of work here that's kind of sloppy, I always like to close all the windows. I think you can typically do a close all. You can also open the window by double-clicking on this, and then I think we could right-click on that tab and say close all, and that would close all the editors. Okay, so what happens here when you come up here and say that you want to close the product? Okay, upper right, close the product. Are we sure we want to exit PyCharm? Yeah, it exits. It's gone. Now, this isn't the same kind of behavior that you get on the Mac, so you've got to do things slightly differently on Windows. So let's go down to the taskbar, fire it up again. Okay. And again, projects are kind of sticky, so I won't be too surprised if we come back to the same project. Okay? So that's the way this works in the Windows version. So we're right back in that project. So how do we go from project to project? Well, we have to go up here to the menu and say File, Close Project. All right, now we get back to that dialogue about how we pick the project we want to work on. Okay, so this is, the workflow is a little bit different on Windows than it is on the Mac, but once you're used to it, it works fine. Let's create another Python programming project. So let's do that. I clicked on Create Project. Pure Python is fine. We don't want it called untitled, so let's change it from the back. My second Python project. Okay, and come down here to this project interpreter line. Okay, and we come down here and it says existing interpreter, and let's see what we've got. Plain old Python development. That looks okay to me. I mean, it does say the one that's in my first Python project, but I think this will work just fine if we do this. Let's just take that as it is and say create. So we get to my second project. It doesn't take quite so long to gen up, which is good. Okay. And again, if we want to add files, we right click and say new Python file, etc. Okay, so I just wanted to show you if you're going to share a virtual environment like we are here for plain old Python development, you don't have to hunt all over the drive to find your way to the environment once you configure the first one. Okay. All right, so let's close the product. Now let's close the project here, and let's look where projects go. Okay, so let's right now we're still in the product, but we can go down to the File Explorer. Okay, and you'll remember that we're going to look for our file. So let's go to this PC and local disk C, and we've got users, and then we've got me. Okay. And then we've got PyCharm projects, and there are my two projects. Okay, so that's a pretty good, again, some people like to put them under documents, and you can certainly do that. This is okay for me, though. All right, I'm pretty happy. Just have the place for your projects, and that's going to be fine. Okay, so that's where that is. What if we were doing a Django project? Okay, so let's say we want to create a new project. It's not a pure Python project, it's a Django project, so select that. Okay. And let's give it a name. We don't like untitled. And we're going to call it my underscore Django underscore project. Okay. So that's fine, but the interpreter, all that stuff is wrong. So let's click here. We don't need to create a new environment because we actually generated a proper env when we were working with the Anaconda product directly. So let's say we need an existing interpreter, but we have to go find it. So it's not this one that we've been using for the other two projects. Let's go over to the right and click on the wheel. We want to add a local. Okay. The interpreter, there's nothing in the drop down. Let's click on the three dot box. Okay, and then let's go looking for the environment that we want. So it's on the C drive, it's under users, under my username, it's under Anaconda 3. Okay, the environments are under envs. Okay, the one that I like of the Django environments that we created is this another Django 11. I created that one at the command line. So let's highlight that. Oh no, we want to open that directory. Because we not only want to identify the environment, we want to actually point to the Python interpreter that's inside of it. So now we go down, and the Python interpreter that we want is python.exe. And now we're going to say OK. Now, are we going to share this? Well, one of the things we find out in our Django courses is that the environments for Django projects can vary pretty widely. So maybe we wouldn't. Okay, so right now I'm not going to share this one. All right, so I'm just going to say OK. And I'm going to say it says Django will be installed on the selected interpreter. That's good. There are a lot of ways to create a Django project. The tutorials that we follow in my classes, one of the ones that's a lot of fun is the Django Girls tutorial. And the Django Unleashed book is like one gigantic tutorial. And they generally have you creating the project directory infrastructure at the command line, in which case we're going to have to find a way to open it with PyCharm. We're not going to generate it all with PyCharm. Here we are actually going to generate one with PyCharm. Okay, so this isn't the Django course. We'll learn more there. So let's click on Create. And we get a Setting Up Django dialog. And again, what's it doing? Well, it's building the directory and file infrastructure to make up a proper Django project. And if you look down in the bottom bar on the left, you can see a recirculating arrow icon saying that there's some work going on. So while it's installing Django, which shouldn't take too long, I'm going to pause it just so we're not watching paint dry, and I'll be right back. Okay, that didn't take too long, but here we are. And let's see, if we come over to my Django project, we can look, and there's typically a whole bunch of files and directories. This is a very simple set of files and directories. This is a very simple project that we have so far. Okay, and you can see down at the bottom, it's still doing some work to generate our stuff. Well, typically every Django project has a piece of infrastructure, a Python program that is generated for us, included for us. It's called manage.py, and we can use it to do a lot of administrative tasks. And how do we run that? I'm just going to show you how you run things on a Django project. You can go up to the menu and click on Tools, and there's something called Run the Manage Py task. So we're going to run that. And it's going to open a window down in this bottom panel. And there are a bunch of commands that you can run. And among them, there's one called Run Server. Run Server. And I'm just going to hit Enter twice. And as you can see, we don't really have a project here. So, but that's not going to keep us from starting up with the development server. So right now we have started up the development server on our largely non-existent project on in this PyCharm project. So you can see that we can do that. What other things can we do down here? Well, we still have this icon down at the bottom left on the bar. So could we open up a Python console? Yeah, we could. Regular old Python console 3.6.4. Could we open up a terminal? Yeah, we could open up a terminal. We've got the same issue here with the command line terminal, where we're not automatically in the environment where we'd like to be. When we've run the server in manage.py, this is actually running under the proper environment. That's working fine. Okay. When we run the when we run the console, okay, that's actually the same thing. That's actually running in the proper environment. Right now, we are still having a problem with the terminal. And again, we'll figure that out. I wish I knew more about how to get all these things to configure on Windows 10, but I use Mac OS, so it's going to take a village here, and when we find it out, I'll re-record this tutorial. So that's about it. That's how you get going. I don't want to get into any more Django, because we've got some Django courses that I want you to sign up for. So I'm just going to say bye until next time. Bye-bye.